Alright, so for each shape, a cone and a sphere, you're going to write a hypothesis. We're going to talk about it and you're going to write a hypothesis. We're actually going to do the experiment together because I don't have enough shapes for everyone to have them. Okay? And then you're going to write a conclusion after we do the experiment together. And then we're going to work on the formula and we're going to work on how to do the problem. But first we're going to go to page 5. We're going to get our title down. Okay, so on page 5 you should have the title, which is down on the south board. Everybody remember that? That's something you can do at the beginning. Okay, calculating the volume of a sphere and cone. And then you also include the date over there, 1/7. Whoop, I couldn't see it. Huh? Okay, we are going to take down 2 vocabulary terms that we have today, and they are also on that south board. We're going to do sphere and cone. That's what we're talking about today. You guys are going to hear sphere and cone a gazillion times. Okay, so here we go. A sphere is a perfectly round 3D object a perfectly round 3D object. A cone is a 3D shape with 1 circular base and 1 vertex. And then from here, we're going to go through the experiment. We're going to set up our paper kind of like we do on the board. I have it written on the board. So we're going to start off first with the experiment with the cone. We're going to start off with the hypothesis.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have the cone, right? And this is our experiment. If we filled this with rice and poured it into the cylinder, how much of the cylinder would it fill? I want you to think about it. I want you to write it down. I think a cone full, oh wait, these have the same base, right? Same base, yes? Do they have the same height?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when they have the same base and the same height, I think a cone filled with rice would fill how much of the cylinder? Write it down. Hypothesis. You're doing it on your own. Once you have your hypothesis on your paper, other than Jackson, raise your hand and let me know what you think. Somebody think something other than half. Garner? Half to 2/3.
3/4.
What's your name? Trey. 3/4. Anyone else other than that? John?
1/4.
1/4. Any others? Okay, you guys ready? So you would do this if I had enough for all of you, okay? So I put it here, pour it in, level it out. Preston, so what you guessed?
Half.
Is that half?
1/3.
It's like 1/3, right? Okay, everybody agree with that? How many of you hypothesized 1/3?
Ooh, yeah.
1. Okay, that's okay, because then we're just learning. So, when we go back, we're going to write our conclusion, right? Okay, so this is what we want to write, conclusion. Okay, the cone is how much of a cylinder? 1/3. The volume of a cylinder with the same radius and height. Okay, everyone good with that? Any questions? Why that's 1/3? Okay, so now we're going to work on the formula. Okay, so now we're going to develop our formula. We already know what the formula is for a cylinder, don't we?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to start with that because it says 1/3 the volume of a cylinder. So a cylinder is V equals, can somebody raise your hand and tell me what the formula is for a cylinder? Presley. R squared H. Very good. Pi R squared H. Okay, so for a cone, it would be V equals, what do you guys think we would write next? What do you think would come next in our formula? Can somebody raise your hand and tell me? Marcos?
1/3 pi.
1/3, because up here we said it's 1/3 the volume, right? 1/3, and then it's the volume of a cylinder. So 1/3 pi R squared H. Any questions where the formula comes from? We're all good? Okay, now we're going to walk through a problem involving a cone. If you do not have a calculator, when I say go, you're going to go get one. When you get back, you're going to copy down the information that I'm going to write. Everybody good with that? Go. A radius of 2.7 yards and a height of 4.4 yards. You want to write that down for the problem. 2.7 yards and a height of 4.4 yards. Okay? Just like last time when we worked with the cylinders, you're always going to write the formula. You got to memorize them, so you should just write them anyway. Here we go. V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. You'll bring down your equal sign. You'll bring down the 1/3. What do we plug in for pi?
3.14.
Our radius is 2.7, and it says r squared. So can somebody raise your hand and tell me how many times I'm going to write 2.7 and why? What's your name?
Tyler.
Tyler.
Because it's squared, so you have to write it twice.
Because it's r squared, we write it twice. Okay? 2.7 times 2.7. And then we have h, and the height was 4.4, so we write 4.4. Okay, so now, I'm very particular about how you put things into the calculator. 1/3 is not 0.3. There is a difference. Do we all understand that?
Yes.
So take your calculator, I'm going to walk you through what you should have. Okay? So for the 1/3, you're going to change that fraction to a decimal. So you're going to do 1 divided by 3 equals. Then you're going to go through and multiply the rest of it. So times 3.14 times 2.7 times 2.7 times 4.4. And you get it equals. And you should get something that comes up to 33.6, what? No, 33.56. Okay, I don't care about after the second decimal. Okay, so 33.56. Is the second number after the decimal 5 or greater? Yes? Okay, so that means we're going to round the 5 up or down? Up. And our answer should be 33.6 yards, what? Cubed. Cubed. Okay? So when you're working through a problem with the cone, 1, 2, 3 lines. Everyone good with that? Kind of like cylinder, right? Alright, so now we're going to go into, we're done with our cone, and now we're going to talk about the sphere. So let's go down, we're going to do experiment with the sphere. Okay, we're going to start off again with our hypothesis. Please don't shout it out. This time we're talking about a sphere, right? If I fill this sphere with rice, well, let's talk about this. Do they have the same diameter?
No.
Do they have the same? Let me get this. Okay, still sphere, right? Half sphere. Same diameter?
Yes.
Same height?
Yes.
Okay, so if I took the sphere and filled it with rice, how much of the cylinder would it fill? I'll write it down. I think, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I got half. It's a lot easier to fill half than it is to try to fill it in that little hole at the bottom. Okay? So everybody got your hypothesis? What do you think? Raise your hand. What do you think? How much of the cylinder will the sphere fill? Name?
Cameron,
Okay, Cameron?
1/4.
She says 1/4. Somebody who I haven't talked to today? Be brave. It's okay. Belinda, what'd you write down? What'd you write down?
The same thing as her.
Same thing as her. Anybody get something other than 1/4? Okay. Kaden,
Oh, I put 2/3.
you put 2/3. Okay? You are? Colton, 3/4. You are? Aiden, half.
Oh,
Marcos, 4/3. So you think it's gonna overflow it? Okay, 4/3 is like,
4/3. I said it too.
4/3 means it will overflow. Because 3/3 is 1, right? Everybody agree with that? Okay, let's
Yeah,
see.
3/4.
Okay, so here's half. How much of the cylinder does half a sphere fill? 1/3?
Yeah.
So if I did it again and poured it in, how much would we get?
2/3.
2/3. Okay? So for our conclusion, okay? Good job, Kaden. A sphere is 2/3 the volume of a cylinder with the same radius and height. Okay, everyone good with that? Alright. So now we're gonna work on the formula. Okay? So we know the formula for a cylinder, right? So we're gonna start there. So a cylinder, V equals, can somebody give that to me again? Aiden?
3.14 or pi r2 or r squared h.
Okay, everybody good with that? And then we're gonna work on the sphere. So for the sphere, V equals, what are we gonna write first? Trey?
V equals 2/3 of 3.14 on the side.
Pi
And pi.
r squared h, right?
Oh, that was very long way.
Okay, you good now?
So he's on the side.
Okay, you're working it out. Okay. So everybody good there? Now I have a question. When we read in the reading, what dimensions is it gonna give you for a sphere? What does it say? Look at your book. What dimensions? Look at the picture. Which dimension is it gonna give you? Austin? Adam? The radius. Okay, does it give you the height?
No.
No, so gotta figure out how to do something with this, okay? So, you guys told me that they have the same base, same diameter, right? And you told me they have the same height. Everybody agree with that? So, the height is also the what?
The width. No, the radius.
Who said that? Cameron, what'd you say? The diameter. Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
So if I have the radius, right, there's the radius. Everybody good with that? And I have a radius over here. So how many radius does it take to make up a diameter? 2. Or how many radius does it take to make up the height? 2. Everybody good with that? Okay. So now we're going to go back to our formula. We're going to work with it. We're going to rearrange it so that it gives Marcos and Jackson the 4/3. Okay? So, 2/3. We're going to bring down the pi. Whew. We're going to bring down the r squared. And what did we say was the height?
The height is the same.
What did we say the height was?
Oh, 4/3.
Wait, oh, wait.
2 of the
Radius.
Okay? So we're going to plug in 2r here. And now we're going to combine like terms. Okay? So we have some numbers, and we have some letters. And we have some letters that are the same, right? So we have numbers, 2/3 and 2. Everybody agree with that? And they're multiplied together. And then we have a letter, r squared and r, that are multiplied together. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Everybody agree with me?
Yes.
Okay. So then we're going to multiply fraction by a whole number. When we multiply a fraction by a whole number, it's the numerator times the whole number. So 2 times 2 is
4.
4, and we still keep the third. We're not doing anything with the pi. It has nothing in common, so we just bring it down. And then we have radius squared. How many radii is that?
2.
2, right?
Yes.
And it's multiplied by another radius. So how many radii do we have altogether?
3.
3. So it would be r to the third. Okay? Everyone good with that?
Yes.
Do we now see how we go from a cylinder to a sphere?
Yes.
Yeah? Alright. Now, reminder, I'm almost out of room down here. You guys see this? If you're getting close to being out of room, make sure you leave a space at the bottom. You guys can't see that. Make sure you leave a space at the bottom, okay, because you pull out another sheet of paper and you end up gluing it in. You don't go to the back. Okay, so it's all on one day. You glue it in and then you fold it up. Everyone good? Okay. So, because I'm about out of room, this is not my notebook. It's just a piece of paper. That's not us, is it?
No, 6.
We have like 20 something minutes. Okay. Okay, so instead of going below, I'm going to go right next to. So right here. Now we're going to do the problem. So the problem, in this problem, we're going to use a radius of 4.1 inches. Okay? So, to do this, just like the cylinder, just like the cone, we're going to write the formula first. So V equals 2/3 pi r cubed. Not 2/3. What is it supposed to be? 4/3. Okay? sign. Bring down your 4/3. What are we gonna plug in for pi? 3.14. Our radius is 4.1, and it says radius to the third. Can somebody please tell me what I'm supposed to do right here? Belinda?
Multiply 4.1 3 times?
We're supposed to what?
Like 4.1 3 times?
We're gonna write 4.1 3 times, because why, Belinda?
Because that's the number on top of the arm.
What? What?
That's the thingy. It's not 2, it's 3, so.
Because the exponent is 3?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. 4.1 times 4.1 times 4.1. Again, 4/3. It's not 1.3. Okay, so get out your calculator. We're gonna do 4 divided by 3 equals. Then you're gonna multiply by 3.14 times 4.1 times 4.1 times 4.1. Marcos, read me the number with 2 numbers after the decimal.
288.54.
288.54, right? So we look at that second number. Is the second number after the decimal 5 or greater?
It's
So we
not-
get rid of it, and it just is 288.5 inches what?
Cubed.
Cubed. Are there any questions?
No.
Do we understand my expectation when you're solving for a sphere and when you're solving for a cone?
Okay.
Yes? Okay. Go back and answer your focus question. After you've answered your focus question, I want you to start on your homework. You have 4 questions, and you have the most amount of time as anybody's had. Okay? So you need to work on those 4 questions and get those completed.